On that fateful night, at the dead of night, Edward's dad woke up with a start. He was pretty sure that he must have heard some faint footsteps outside his house. He took a quick glance at his digital alarm clock that was next to his bed, and it was exactly 2:45 a.m. Just to be double sure that he wasn't dreaming, Edward's dad tiptoed to the bedroom window, and in a stealthily manner, he slowly raised the curtain blinds, and that's when he saw a ghostly male figure trying to unlock his chicken's coop door. Fearing that his home was now a target for a series of break-ins that had been happening in the area over the past 4 weeks, Edward's dad withdrew his old revolver that he had inherited from his old dad, slowly opened the window, took an aim at the intruder's head, and he was now ready to pull the trigger. Besides the shooting practices that he used to attend years ago, Edward's dad had never shot at anyone or any animal before. But now, the safety of his chickens was heavily relying on his marksmanship. Following the series of break-ins that had been happening in the area, the residents had been instructed to be on high alert and take precaution because some of these burglars were armed and ruthless. Not wanting to take any chances with his properties, Edward's dad took a deep breath and pulled the trigger. And in a split second, the ghostly figure fell on the ground, dead. Sighing a sign of relief, Edward's dad called 911, and he sat on the bed waiting for the police arrival. Now, this is where the story gets a twist. Miles away from home, on this particular day and night. At around 7 p.m., Edward, a third-year college student, was sitting in a restaurant sipping coffee together with his girlfriend. The two had met in college 2 years ago, and they instantly became attached to each other. As they sipped through their coffee, Edward's girlfriend, Anne, expressed her wish to attend a movie premiere that was going to happen the next day, in a neighboring town. All she wanted was her boyfriend to accompany her to the cinema hall, watch the movie together, then make their way back home later. Edward gladly accepted, and he even promised his girlfriend that he would pay for the tickets and anything else that they would need for the journey. However, what Edward didn't tell Anne was that at that particular moment, he was flat broke, and that he had no means of getting some quick cash to fund the little tour they were about to make. But Edward being Edward, he already had a plan as to what he was going to do to get the cash. At around 9 p.m., after driving his girlfriend to her apartment, Edward sat in his car outside the college hostels, and he decided to call his dad. Now, a point to note here, back at home, Edward was the only child in their family. And for some reasons, this made him to have this kind of an entitled mentality that made him believe he had to have everything he asked for from his parents. His parents were rich, but not always did his dad bow down to his son's demands. Edward's dad didn't want to raise a spoilt kid as his son, and so, many are the times he only gave Edward what he needed, and not what he wanted. As he grew older, Edward had to find loopholes in his dad's way of doing things, and this meant he would end up fleecing his dad with non-existent bills that he claimed were from college. Sometimes, he would lie to his dad that he was sick. Other times, he would lie to him about non-existent school trips that he needed to attend, and so forth. In short, Edward used to lie his way through to his dad's finances. Once successful, Edward would later use this money to spoil her girlfriend rotten. And it's not that his dad never gave him upkeep money, it's just that he wanted more to himself. So, on this particular night, as Edward sat on the car waiting for his dad to receive the call, he thought of a quick way of fleecing his dad some money for the movie premiere. However, on this particular night, his dad wasn't falling for any of his tricks, and so he ended up getting no money from him. Vexed at his dad, Edward decided to take matters in his own hands. The distance between his school and their home was roughly 100 miles. His dad being a poultry farmer, Edward came to the conclusion that he would drive home that night, sneak into the chicken's coop, steal some of his dad's chickens, sell them early the next morning to a hotel that was near his college, and thus get money to fund her girlfriend's tickets. Without thinking twice, Edward started driving towards his parents' home. Having been away from home for the better part of the semester, Edward was unaware of the series of night break-ins that were happening in the areas around his home, and so he didn't know that everyone in the estate, including his parents, had beefed up their security. At around 2:43 a.m., Edward arrived home, jumped over the perimeter wall, and he started tiptoeing towards his dad's chicken coop. At one point, he tripped over a bucket that he had not seen, and he fell on the ground with a thud. He lay on the ground briefly, before proceeding to the chicken coop. The chicken's coop door was facing directly at his parents' bedroom window. Using some unlocking tools he had brought along with him, Edward was able to unlock the padlock, and he was smiling as he opened the door when the bullet from his father's revolver took him down. It didn't take long for the police to arrive, and Edward's parents went out to join them. By now, some of their neighbors had joined the scene to witness what had just happened. Imagine the shock and disbelief on Edward's dad's face when the police turned the dead body over, and there, Edward's dad saw his son lying dead. His first ever shot at someone had ended his son's life.